Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, our presentation presented to you from Ambient AI, where we are working hard every day to help you prevent every security incident possible. This webinar is our presentation on Beyond the Buzzwords, the framework for real AI security. This is a framework that is intended to help you in your evaluation of AI security products and how to understand the definitions that make a true AI-powered security platform. My name is Jody Russell. I'm a senior solutions engineer here at Ambient AI. I've been in the physical security industry for well over 20 years, specifically focused on video surveillance technology for over half that time. And then lately, I have been spending a whole lot of time really focusing my efforts and my attention on this amazing new world of AI, computer vision intelligence, and the impact that it's having on our traditional video surveillance operations and models. Joining me today is a very special guest, a longtime friend of mine as well. Please welcome Chris Gilbert, founder and president of Security Pros. Chris, thank you so much for joining us first and foremost, bringing your expertise to this conversation. Please share a little bit about yourself, about your journey in the physical security industry, and tell us about Security Pros.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jody. I really appreciate the chance to be here and for thinking about us and our team and what we're trying to do in the integration space. Security Pros, my history, all that really started back in the late 90s. I was lucky enough to get introduced to this industry, really in the home security world that quickly evolved into the commercial space. And I got exposed to black and white video and VHS tapes and all these amazing things that it could do at the time. And the first innovation I really saw was it shifting into seeing more than one camera at a time and time-lapse video. So I kind of grew up in that very first beginning phase. Luckily, I caught it when I was young in the very beginning of this adventure. But I've been lucky enough to watch it grow and expand and change time after time, moving into digital, moving into color, believe it or not. I got a chance to see all that take place. And so I lean on that experience a lot. And over those first few years, the first 10 or 12 years of my career, I was lucky to be in a large organization to really help me see what this technology could do. I took care of existing customers. I got to be close to industrial. I got a chance to manage salespeople and sales teams around the country, and got some really good exposure into the manufacturing spaces and what was happening kind of behind the scenes in the industry as well as on the front line with the customer. After a good amount of time in that, I realized that starting my own thing was probably the right answer, and got the chance to come home, see my kids grow up a little bit, and I wanted to be a part of that experience and started my own business, Security Pros. We actually started about 16 years ago, October in 2009, so we're coming up on that 16-year mark. We started off doing the same things. We started off providing video back, high value video back to the customer, really working in very key spaces to make sure that we were providing a high level of value back to the customer, and that whenever we deployed a system for them, it was something they could actually put to work. And we wanted to make sure that we weren't just taking pictures. And we tried really hard very early on to make sure we weren't just taking pictures, but we were actually providing a service back to them that they could do something with, and something with actionable intelligence on it. And so over those years, as we first got started in this, we found active surveillance. We found all these different things that we started layering in with analytics and I guess AI to some extent, but for the most part, it was analytics and really starting to figure out how this industry could help us shift. And so I would tell you that our company has stayed on the front edge of where this industry's been going for a while. Over the past 10 years, we've seen a lot of innovation within the space. We're heavy into about 70-80% of our work is surveillance. We do a ton of access control as well, but a lot of our work is in the surveillance space. Less and less and less is in the intrusion space. As cameras are getting smarter, we've been deleting that side of our business for a while. We've moved away from residential completely. We've been all commercial into key vertical markets for a good little bit. And this next level of things it seems like it's hitting us at the perfect time to where, what, we can lean into that experience that we had all those years, and we can really turn it into, kind of try to be a forerunner in the next generation here of where this industry is headed. So I can say our team's very excited about where it's going with AI and how we're going to be able to deploy that for our customers. And I think it fits into our mantra of who we're trying to be at our core. And that really, that makes it exciting for us that we get something new to play with and take to market. So I think we're ready for what's next.
Yeah, and that really is one of the most valuable things that the integration partner for us on the manufacturing side. You're people like you, organizations like yours, the integration specialist, the partner. Um, One of the most important things that you bring to the equation is that exact sort of knowledge and the experience of being through those multiple inflection points over not just your own unique experience, but also this brilliant team you've surrounded yourself with. You can help customers really understand what's happening, when it's happening, why it's happening, what the next steps are. You're bringing the true security pro expertise to the table, and that's exactly why we wanted to also make sure to get you as a part of these kinds of conversations, because it really is uh, your experience and your knowledge that brings the most value to the customer beyond what we can deliver from a product standpoint. So once again, we're very, very much appreciative for you joining us, and hopefully this is the first of many conversations that we'll be having in the future.
Absolutely.
So in today's webinar, we're going to be covering 3 key topics, and this is the first of a 5-part series of webinars that we will be presenting across multiple of the upcoming months. We'll be bringing in additional experts within the industry to talk more on very specific topics or subjects around this framework that we've identified, the 5 tenets of AI-powered security. So today, Chris and I are going to be setting the stage for that broader conversation. We certainly hope that based off of what you learned today, it builds the foundation, which will then be informed even more by the content that we plan to deliver over the next couple of webinar series. So in today's context, we're going to be talking about the current state, and we're utilizing data to back up some understanding around AI adoption. And then Chris and I will do our best to unpack some of the core barriers preventing even further adoption of these kinds of technologies. And then from Chris's experience, some of the challenges that he's seen with his existing customers and potential customers in getting to that next level of AI readiness. And then we're going to start unpacking the actual framework. It starts with 3 core pillars of value that set the foundation for how organizations can expect return on investment from these AI-powered technologies. And if they understand the 3 foundational aspects of value that they want or that they expect this technology to deliver on, then it will help them set the definitions to define what the context of what the question is when they're going to evaluate the product itself. A little bit of a word salad. It'll make more sense as we get through some of these slides. So we're going to end up today. Hopefully, you'll come away from this with a clear understanding of the 5 fundamental tenets of a true AI-powered security platform, and you'll have a very good understanding of the 3 pillars of value that an AI security platform should be delivering on from day one. These are your return on investments. These are your value over time that you expect from this kind of technology. And throughout, I hope that Chris will pepper us with lots of experience, lots of fun stories. And of course, there is a section there in the Q&A for any questions you have. We will do our best to get questions answered at the end. There will also be a white paper that will be included in the follow-up as part of your registration for this event. That white paper will unpack the entire series in the context of what are the 5 tenets of AI-powered security and where do they fit within your current evaluations for moving into an AI-ready platform, or perhaps you're already there and you're looking to scale. Understanding those tenets can help you make sure that you're making that scale happen with the appropriate cadence. Okay, Chris?
Jody, one thing I would probably say to this is, as you're looking, as folks are out there looking to take themselves into the AI world and they want to bring this to their customers, I think you really have to take a step back and look at it as a strategy, an overall business strategy. If you go into it like you're selling a new product, or you're selling a new recorder or a new box or a new camera or a new feature, that's not what this is. This is a whole new brain space of how you're going to take your business to market, how you're going to bring value to your customer. And you really have to take a step back and say, what is going to be our AI strategy? Who are we going to partner with? How are we going to execute this? How are we going to train our sales team to speak differently, all the way through, all the way down to the technicians and the deployments? It is not a feature. It is something that has to be well thought out before you try to eat this elephant. It's there's a lot to it. It's very important, and you have to. There's a lot of analyzing of your database of customers. So I think look at it as a business strategy, not as a feature benefit type application. You'll be in a lot better shape.
Yeah, very well said. And I appreciate you adding that in there. Also, I would add to that by saying that it is very important that you have confident advisors,
Hmm.
advisors that you're confident with on your side. This is where the integration partnership really comes into play. Technical advisors that can provide consultative services, because as you said, don't try to eat the whole elephant. This is also not just a product. This is a service, and the service is evolving at a pace that nobody can really keep up with on their own. We can create all kinds of really cool things with the technology. We partner with people like Security Pros to deliver that technology, but ultimately it takes all three of us, you guys on the integrator side, and the end user, the customer, to really work together to build that strategy that you just highlighted. So I really appreciate you bringing that into the conversation. All right, so let's start with some data. Now, this is data that Ambient AI has collected through our own research, and it is a compilation of some surveys as well as research data that's available on the network, on the internet. But what we've basically found is that we are at an inflection point. Everyone that you talk to in the security industry will tell you that they are aware of AI. They've at least heard about this thing called AI. And as we did our research, we found that as of last year, was actually a pretty small amount of organizations that were actively shopping for physical security that had a true AI first initiative already in place. As of the beginning of last year, there was a lot of organizations that were thinking about it, but they didn't actually have a directive from their leadership team. They didn't have a core plan in place to say, go out and look for AI technology, and we are going to have an AI technology implemented by X date of calendar year 2024. So that number moved pretty dramatic shift too, to go from 10% to 37% in a 1 year time period. Before we move on to the next numbers, Chris, let's just set on that for just a second. What does this number mean to you in the context of the conversations you've had in the field with customers looking for you for advice on what they should be thinking about in terms of AI and physical security?
Absolutely. One of the things that when we go in and sit down with a customer, I was lucky enough to actually do one this morning. I wanted to do that. I wanted to see what that felt like again, just have it fresh in my mind. And I want to see a little bit more about how they take that. And I think the word AI is thrown around so much. They know they want to do something. I don't think that they can quantify what that looks like until somebody can educate them as to how they can apply it properly. All they know is they may think that they can get on a website and do some chatting and figure that out, and all of a sudden, oh, well, we've put AI into our business. I don't think they fully comprehend what it's capable of and what it can do and how far it can take their organization. Very similar to those that have been using the chat GBTs of the world. If you're not prompting that properly, it's not a copy paste application. There's a lot more you can do with it once you understand and do a little research and do a little learning. And I think a lot of these first initiatives, like you're saying, they know they want to do it. They're not sure how they want to get there, and they're looking for somebody to partner with. And your opportunity lies in your ability to educate them about where it's going to affect their business the best. And I can definitely see that we hear that same conversation. People want to employ it, they want it in their business. I don't know that they know fully how it is. And I think they're lumping some things together. They think of security, they think of where we're trying to go, but they also think of business analytics, business softwares. How can some of that all play in? Somewhere that seems a little muddy to me. And sometimes I have to pull out what we're doing to get them to really understand that it plays a big role in your security operation. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the bottom of the slide, we have this number. It's 84%
Mhm.
CSOs expect physical security budgets to hold or increase. Now, I think that that is sort of the natural ebb and flow of how the security industry works. 1 year, you can't find anybody that has a budget for security. Something happens. The next year, suddenly people are saying, hey, we got some budget and we have a directive to go do things. In correlation to this idea that 84%, which is a pretty good number, of CSOs expect that their budgets are going to probably increase. And on top of that, they are recognizing the 62% of them recognizing that at least AI or generative AI is a top tech trend, excuse me,
Mhm.
that they must start paying attention to. What do you think this means for the market as far as the adoption of AI over 2025 and 2026?
What we're seeing is we're seeing that, very similar numbers. I think everybody they're wanting to put more money towards it, or if they are stuck in like, hey, we've spent this money, we've bought these systems over the years, we're seeing them continually every so many years get upgraded or changed, dispelling some of that and saying, hey, this is not another feature. This is not another thing that you have to do. You don't have to go buy new cameras. Sometimes I really think that's important to understand, what base layer are you starting with? Once you have those conversations, you understand whether they need to increase that budget or not. You might be able to reapply some funds differently. As things start moving into hosted models, they start moving towards a recurring component or an operational expense versus that's a conversation that has to take place. If their capital expenditures maybe don't change, the operational might. And so you might have a different way of being able to move their security technology forward and move it into an operational expense versus a capital expense. And you might get a little bit more flexibility in there. And so maybe that increase is coming from, moving it to operational versus the physical. I think what we're seeing more and more is the physical is staying static and people are opening their minds to the operational side of things to make services changes to increase their security budget, but their capital has to stay the same.
Yeah,
So
get the most out of their current investments, and at least the certainly the physical infrastructure that's been already invested in over many years and layers
correct.
of technology. Now we got to start figuring out how to get more out of that.
Mhm.
Intelligence is the means to do that because intelligence opens up efficiency and automation, which are some stuff we'll talk about in a minute.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
it's just a couple more numbers now. So speaking on the adoption rates, 39% of active AI or organizations that are actively employing AI as part of their physical security technology stack, of that number, almost 40% say that there's actually a lot of value that they've realized beyond just surveillance, which you just kind of hit on. Sometimes it muddies the water, but there is more value outside of security, which means a lot of times more champions that can go and help you find budget for things that will help both security and say employee health and safety, as an example, or infrastructure or your facilities teams. Have you been having conversations, because you guys are very much security pros? Are you
Mhm.
starting to find that your team is having conversations about things that aren't really related to security more because of this technology?
It's funny you say that because when we launched the company, it was all about security. It was security pros all over the shirts. Here we go, trucks everywhere, everything going on. The funny part is, almost in those very, very beginning stages of working with businesses, I've always been taught risk assessments. I've always been taught how to go in there and do a discovery meeting with a customer or a business. And I've always felt like we were a business, partner in them, with their organization to make things better. So for years and years, I would be doing my spiel and I'm literally sitting there and I would cover up the security. I'm like, hey, listen, forget the security part. Here's what we're here to do today. Let's solve a business problem. What are you facing? And I think that's just going to go right to the next level. I mean, I'm not changing the name of the company anytime soon, but it's a conversation that has to be had, and we have to dispel some of that in the beginning and just say, hey, listen, if this thing could do anything in the world for you, what would you want to get out of it? Where do you want to start? What do you delete everything? And just you're taking pictures today. I ask a question in some of our meetings. Hey, listen, how many times have you pulled video this week? Half of them don't even know, or maybe it's once or twice. And then I ask, hey, what's the percentage of time that you feel like you've recorded that you went back and looked at your video? And they're like, everybody's less than 1%. Nobody's looking at the video. And I'm like, I've been in this industry all these 26 years selling something that could be perceived in today's environment as nobody ever looked at it, right? And that's a scary thing to think about. And it's provided a value. It's absolutely done a service. It's absolutely done some things for the customers and made safer environments. I promise you that's happened. We've seen enough data over the years to prove that concept. But the shift that's about to happen, I think people have to understand, and that before they make another investment, how are they going to get the most out of this next generation of technology without a human being involved? And it's like, hey, listen, if this thing could do anything in the world for you, you want this to happen, you want this AI thing to happen. Let's just start throwing things on the wall and where can it take you and what could possibly be the best outcome by deploying something like this? And I start getting some really neat responses, right? And those responses start to steer where this customer is in their adoption and just how serious they are about getting it employed, and where we can have the biggest value drivers for them. So let them run a little bit, let their imaginations flow. This is a chance to do that. You don't have to be the all-knowing being that comes in there and says, here's all the cool features this thing has. Like I said, you're not selling a feature anymore. You're selling a business tool, and you're selling a software that can help improve their operation. And it's a bigger fish to fry kind of thing.
I
So.
think in relation to the numbers that we just previously looked at, where is obviously some, we're trending now to this point where adoption is starting to gain momentum. The
Mhm.
conversation's happening, at least from my perspective, every conversation that I have at a trade show, at a dinner event, even just casually across LinkedIn with my network and my group of former colleagues and customers, et cetera, we're all talking about AI. Now, of course, I work for an AI company, so that makes a lot of sense. But the buzz is out there, and we've seen the numbers to kind of show that it's trending. And then when we look at these numbers and we say, okay, now we've got 50% that are actively using AI in some way to support their existing security teams. And then of that, 70% almost are already deploying some form of video analytic. You could count that as just basic motion detection. You could say that they're already doing object detection classification, things like smart search capability, where you can go through and utilize forensics, those count. But there's already some deployment there. What that means is that organizations are definitely accepting that this is something they need to do. They are starting to implement the technology. They are now starting to look for ways that they can expand the justification for the cost through other departments beyond security. And then one of the parts that I think you hit on that are very important is this is not an indictment on the traditional technology that has existed for many years. That is great technology. It has done a very good job. The practitioners that sold and installed and love that technology have done a great job of building this industry. However, the scale at which it's growing now is impossible for it to continue without layering more and more and more technology. And if organizations aren't careful, if they're not thinking strategically, working with advisors like you, then they could get into a situation where they are constantly adopting some great new thing that is a point solution and not addressing the overall orchestration of intelligence at scale, which is where we need to be for the future. There's mixed emotions so far. So right now, if you run a poll, and we do this on a regular basis, if you run up, and I think this probably aligns with what a lot of our viewers have experienced themselves, but if you run a poll, benefits versus concerns over AI, generally speaking, people are like, yes, of course, I love it. The idea of real-time detections, real-time analysis, more proactive security, the efficiency gains, I love that. But I've used ChatGPT. It hallucinates. You can't trust the answers. You got to go and touch it twice to do the research, trust but verify. And then I'm really worried about Big Brother and an AI watching over all my cameras. There's privacy, there's ethical concerns about bias and training. What kind of conversations have you experienced over the past, say, 1 year to 6 months to a year, specifically in regards to the pros and cons of AI and physical security?
Well, the first thing comes with making sure that their environment is conducive to that, right? And it depends on where we're working. We've got applications where AI is very useful to the person that is watching a set of cameras or doing some actions on a regular basis, and it helps reduce that cost. And not necessarily cost, but it helps reduce their activities that they have to do. Maybe helps with the manpower, which ultimately will help with the cost. But there's a lot of, I guess we see a lot of them holding back when it comes to sensitive situations. If we've got HR areas or we've got doctors' offices and we've got, certain HIPAA concerns and different things, which have always sort of been there. It's a matter of how do we best, bring those technologies in, and being able to come into it from a channel by channel type application, we can start to filter that in and solve some of those problems for them. So if we can go in there and make sure that we are partnering with the best and making sure that we're able to bring our best partners to the table like Ambient and bring them into the table and say, hey, listen, here's the concerns the customer has. Here's what their requirements are in their operation. How do we make sure we don't cross those lines, or how do we marry those two things together? Sometimes those get to be very complex conversations. and
Yeah.
and once those are fleshed out, then we're able to provide the solution and take them to the next level. but it depends. We've got some financial institutions that are very particular about what we can and can't do. We got to protect certain rooms in certain ways, and there's certain places you got to have, things set up. We've got to make sure that we are at the forefront of looking at the, whatever certifications they have, and make sure that we can cross and all the T's and dot all the I's to make sure that we're meeting all the requirements. And that takes active conversations. It's so flexible that without a partnership, you can't do it. If you're just selling a part or a piece, or having three or four different folks out there that can possibly sell a thing, I don't think that's the right way to go about it. I think you're going to have a partner that can work through it. And if something's not available, maybe they can help make it available, and they can help, show the customer that they're making moves and strides towards that to reach their particular certification they got to have or maintain to get get it back in the benefits column versus the concerns. So
Yeah, I also would say that this particular data points out two interesting things. First and foremost, I think that if you would have looked at this survey, say a year and a half or maybe 2 years ago, but probably realistically even a year ago, the numbers would be almost switched. You would have a larger amount of people that had concerns over accuracy and false alarm and privacy and ethics than people that are readily admitting that they have experienced already productive gains and benefits based off of the use of the technology. I think that again points back to the numbers we looked at earlier. The trend is moving in the right direction. We're seeing adoption. At the same time, we are now seeing the technology get to a point where it can actually reach that plateau of productivity that delivers a return on investment for customers. And now we've seen enough of the implementation in the field in real time that trust is starting to formulate for the customers, on top of, in general, throughout not just work, but day-to-day life, we're incorporating more and more AI technologies into our daily lives, which makes it easier and easier to trust it beyond, the Ring camera at your front door, as an example, makes it easier to trust the surveillance. So I
well,
think we're
as you're
moving in the
saying,
right
it all
direction.
adds up, right? I mean, I've been with so many people that we walked away from residential work, several years ago. But the influence that things like Ring and things like that are starting to have, it's becoming more like, wow, it knew that was a human. Yeah, now they saw it 47 times. I got 47 alerts, but it knows it's a human. It knows it's a fire. It becomes some of the commonplace in their day-to-day lives, and it makes our deployments a lot easier in the commercial side. And you start adding in, we just talked about ChatGPT. I think back in time to some of these other shifts that have happened over the years, and there's always something else pushing it. Remember when the phones finally ended up with a camera on them? All of a sudden, everybody starts talking differently. It's like, oh, wow, I've got a camera everywhere. Well, I need a camera everywhere. When I
Yeah,
first started this industry, there was only one service, the insurance, that was a monthly recurring service. Me coming in and talking to them about doing a recurring service for security stuff was crazy. And the
yeah.
only thing they could imagine is saving money against their insurance. That was my whole sales pitch, right? And then today we're diving into things, and they're starting to realize, I would say something like a Netflix opened the door to us selling recurring services, right? Because now this generation is learning, hey, I just want this thing to work. I want it to show up. I want it to do its job, and I'm willing to pay for it on a recurring basis to make that go down. And it makes our companies a lot more stable. And so when you start looking at deploying these types of technologies and putting this stuff into play, the outside world's going to play a big role in that. And you got to take a look at your markets that you're deploying it in, and how are they being affected by other AI means, and you might get a quicker adoption in those spaces, right? So that's what we're seeing, and that's why we kind of spend the time where we spend our time. But I can definitely tell you that the outside world plays a big role in whether they're going to adopt it or not, and they're going to dive in. So
Absolutely. The ultimately the decision maker that has to decide whether or not to allocate budget for this technology, they look at it at a certain point and say, why is it so expensive, or why is it so complicated? I've got a X camera on my front door at home that works on my phone. It costs me a couple bucks a month, and it's very easy. My daughter taught me how to use it. Like, why does it have to be so difficult just because it's a professional product that you're selling to
right.
the commercial market? And
Go
that
sell
has
to some
driven a lot of this
CFOs, right?
student adoption. I'm sorry?
It goes sell to some CFOs. That's actually, you sit down and sell to a CFO, and they're like, well, this guy's service ticket's more expensive than your service ticket. And I'm like, Well, that's not what I'm here to sell, buddy. Like I can put you in a different space. And once you go through all that and you need to understand how their budgets work. And once you
Very
do
important.
that and you understand that and you gain ground with them, you're gonna be able to go a lot further. And I would also tell you that as an integration company, getting AI into your own business is a step for your customer to be able to adopt it. So if you're
Yeah.
trying to run your organization with traditional break fix technology, no service agreements, and you're not remoting in and seeing how things are working or getting using AI to watch what's happening and getting reports off your systems you're deploying, then you're not adopting AI, you're selling AI, but you're not adopting it and you're not bringing it into your culture. And we believe that it has to be a part of your culture. And we've been doing that for 3 or 4 years now. We've been selling analytics and for a very long time. We've been verbally challenging. I think we installed our first verbal challenge system like in 2012. We started kicking people out of areas in 2012 with analytics and things like that and automated messaging and live guard challenge in 2012. So it's exciting to see that we can automate some of that and make those moves. But I believe it's part of your culture. You either have to believe that you're doing this or not. And I think you have to adopt some AI technology to run your systems and run your organization better. And it's going to help your benefits to your customer at the end.
It also makes your consultation legitimate. You know,
Absolutely.
you're speaking from a foundation of confidence because you are a trusted advisor that implements your own, you practice what you preach, so to speak.
Right.
And when organizations feel that confidence and they see it, they don't feel like you're selling them something. They feel like you're partnering with them. And that's ultimately successful AI implementation requires a partnership because it is so customizable and
Hmm.
it can be so operationally impactful if it's done within the core requirements of what the organization uniquely needs for their organization. That's kind of a long word salad to basically say, customize it as best you can to their environment, but it does require a long-term relationship. Okay, one more data point that we'll get at, wrap this initial part of the conversation. We've set the stage now as where we're at with the adoption of AI, what's going on in the market. And we're not the only ambient AI, security pros, we're not the only ones recognizing these trends and having this kind of data. Uh, Everyone across the board is seeing this happen. And unfortunately, that is leading to this deluge of buzzwords, of industry buzz. I mean, for the past at least 2 to 3 years, probably realistically the most prevalent in the last 2 years, you can't walk through a trade show without AI just slapping you in the face from every booth and people having all kinds of claims. There's a whole lot of smoke. There's a whole lot of really flashy, sexy looking logos, fires. And unfortunately, what I believe has happened in the past that has led to some of those trust issues that may have existed a year ago and may potentially still exist, people got burned, for because let's be clear, you've experienced this throughout your career. Traditional pixel counting based analytics are not new. Motion detection, even object detection, is not new technology. Customers have attempted, or organizations have attempted to layer this technology into their security stack on multiple occasions in the past. And because of improper expectations or poorly selected marketing strategies, lack of real ROI, lack of real implementation discipline, they've been burned in the past. And then what's happened on the right side of the screen is the operational reality, which is we turned it on and man, there was a lot of noise, so much noise that we ended up just turning it off, which is the exact argument now for what's going on with a lot of access control systems. They work great to a point, but they create a lot of noise. A lot of organizations end up just muting alarms, and now your unauthorized access prevention is basically a wasted investment. Integration gaps. We're not truly in that orchestrated intelligent security ecosystem just yet, but those promises are still being sold, as well as many unproven claims about detection capabilities and accuracy. And then a lot of times I think that you find that organizations don't really report the failures that they have experienced, or marketing from manufacturers will intentionally obfuscate information in order to hide their failures. What has been your experience as far as the marketing promises, maybe even if you've got some some kind of warning signs to share with our audience, warning signs for sussing out the smoke from the mirrors, from the reality of true products.
One of the things that we spend a lot of time on with our advisors is making sure that they're not just selling the shiny new toy, the shiny new thing, or the shiny new feature, right? So many times, people go into different things, and to get excitement going, you have to talk about some neat things that are coming down the pipe. This is where the industry is going, this is what's going on. And I think sometimes companies let that run a little too far, and you end up in this space where it's like, well, he told me it would do this. Yes, it will in the perfect environment. Take license plate capture, for example. Everybody wants to hang a camera anywhere, and we're going to catch all the plates. It's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah, that's not the case, right? And so you have to go into some of these things and say, okay, you've got to really understand the environments and really understand. And it's hard to slow down, and especially letting teams run. So one of the things that we've done is we've managed what is available to our team to sell, and they don't get the chance to do it until it's been properly rolled out. Right now, have we fallen down? Absolutely, we have, because something will happen and we've got to get something to market and it goes a little too fast and we stumble over ourselves. Everybody does it, I'm sure. But we make a valiant effort to make sure that if something, we control our catalog. We don't let our team just go pick whatever they want to sell on the planet. We're very truncated down into this set of products, because these set of products do these things in a proven manner and they provide value back to our customer, and that's our mission. And if we let the world go running crazy and vendors are coming in the door every day trying to sell us a new shiny toy, that translates and trickles down to the customer. So I would try to control that influx. And if it doesn't meet your mission for your customer, you may not need it. And you sure as heck don't need 47 versions of a 5 megapixel camera. You don't need it. So let's put some things down, and let's let that stress disappear. I think that translation to the customer and not taking enough time to do a deep discovery process of what they're trying to solve will almost guarantee that they're going to get burned, right? They're going to have some perception out in the world. You come in with a shiny, cool thing. I really like this person. They're going to fix it for me. They're going to bring it to market. This is a great company. So whatever. You get in there and you realize that you deployed something to do a job, but that may not be the real reason why they really wanted that thing, because they didn't tell you. You didn't do your job to dig deep enough to figure that out. And so if you can control the level of noise of products and pieces coming into your organization that's pushing to your customer, and you're doing a really good discovery process and ensuring that you're meeting those value points, you're going to have a lot less of that noise in the system, and you're going to be able to deploy something that the customer is going to trust you, which in turn leads to referrals and more business. And here we go, in long-term sticky customers. And that's what we all want, right? It's hard when you're chasing bids. It's hard when you're chasing certain areas of the market. I hear a term all the time, well, it's a dollar of profits, dollar profits, dollar profit. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if that's really the case or not. I think about that a little bit different. Yes, it may be, but in reality, I can work really hard and get a dollar of profit, or I can work really smart and get a dollar of profit. And I would rather go the latter.
And
So
the
hopefully
same for
there's a
end
couple things
users.
that would help you.
The same for end users. They could, spin a lot of wheels and save $1 in labor costs or efficiencies or whatever, and they could layer on more technology, add more complexity, add more noise, or they can simplify things. They can find the technology that answers the easiest questions at the simplest layer, and still see the same benefit without all that extra work. But this graphic and all of the information that we've discussed leading up to this point, this is drawing towards the conclusion that we have. And for me, this is something that I've been personally advocating for some time now. We need clear definitions and distinctions in this industry in order to help end users, organizations, understand the right kinds of things to be looking for so that they don't get burned, so that they understand where they're at in the market. If they're sitting on the fence, if they're suffering from analysis paralysis, they've looked at all these different technologies. First off, if they're on the fence, we've shown them some data that says, hey, there's a lot of organizations that are having this conversation. Don't wait around, jump into the trend, start your AI strategy, create your AI first foundational plan, and start working with your security integration partnerships to build a strategy for how you're going to implement AI, because the technology is going to continue to expand, and the use cases are growing beyond just security.
Yep.
And then most importantly is, here are the 5 core things that you need to be looking for. And if a company can deliver on these 5 core things that we believe are the most important aspects of delivering value for you as an end user, then you're making a safe investment. Then you at least know that when you go to your leadership team and you say, here is this cool new technology, this great new product that we want to consider an evaluation of, or that we're thinking about investing in, you know that it's going to at least satisfy those 5 tenets that will drive those 3 main pillars of value. And that brings us to what the real value is in an AI-powered security system. Now, Chris, you would probably say there's more slides that, or more graphics that should be on this slide. We're trying to boil it down to 3 simple pillars of value, is what I like to call them. But if you have an AI-powered system, through automation and through the ability to complete simple tasks, routine tasks, and cipher through a lot of data, a lot of deluge of data to consume, you need a system that can improve efficiency at its core for your operations. You need a system that can provide context, because that is the very most important part of that very first step. When a detection or when something happens, the context will inform the act part. What am I going to do to mitigate or to prevent or to respond to this? And then you need some form of proactive vigilance. At scale, it's just absolutely impossible for human beings. And there's a lot of data that backs this up about things like attention decrement, et cetera. We've got plenty of numbers that we can go through on that in another conversation. But it's just impossible at scale, with the cost of cameras going down, everybody wanting them everywhere, facilities expanding, more and more coverage that needs to be looked at. So proactive vigilance has to be a core foundation to the value that AI drives. What do you think about these 3 specifically? And then is there 1 or 2 that you think should also be in consideration?
Talking with our customers and seeing what's going on, you start talking scale. And I think that comes with some understanding. When you think about the fact that cameras have been recorded, and the coolest new feature was seeing it from your phone, right? Oh my gosh, I'll give you an alert and I'll get it to your phone. That's still too much. That's too much for me to deal with, because what do customers do? After the 5th or 6th alert, I'm out. I'm on vacation. Leave me alone. You sold it to me because it was cool, because I could see it on my phone remotely, and I'm on vacation with my family and I don't want to look at it anymore. It's not doing anything for you. So you've got to really pull out what that scale looks like for that customer and what automations are there, because I think that the automation piece, and I could almost pull out, I guess I was going to pull something out, the automated workflows. I would kind of pull that as its own. It's so important in pulling data for tailgating or something else, pulling other data in HR type software. What's happening? We're using this in places where we want to protect very important areas and very sensitive spaces. And I think that having those automated detections, and what can I delete, right? I've got an intrusion system I can get rid of, or I've got, we talked to some people the other day that had a bunch of motion detectors. I'm like, motions are looking at motion. I'll catch a raccoon running through your building. You think that's going to be good for you? That's not what I want, right? And so pulling out and really taking that discovery process to go a deeper, and proactive to me screams that I'm gonna kick somebody out of a site, right? Automated intelligence is telling me, okay, I want an automated report of what just took place in this area, and I don't want to have to do that anymore. I'm sick of my guards typing notes constantly. To me, those are 2 different things. I may have a painter working in an area in a zone, and that's a report for them. I might be able to automate a report. Great. Go do that. Go do a walk around and make people feel safer, because you're in a better space. So I would almost tear proactive vigilance apart, and that's probably what I would do a little bit. But it's very important to understand how the efficiency of the business that I'm working with is operating. How can I make them more efficient, put more money in their bottom line, and make sure that I can pull in what they need to have happen, and understand what else are they using that might work with what I'm doing. And then, do I need to be proactive, or do I just need to make a human's job a little easier? And I think I can provide that value back to them when we do that. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate your input on that. I would add that the when you take the three pillars of value and you put them together, what you're really trying to accomplish, and this is maybe my counter argument to where the proactive piece comes in. What we really want to do, and this is part of what we're going to be talking about in the next webinar as part of this series, the second webinar, which will be covering the automation piece. And there's a concept that's long-standing in security, but it's detect, decide, and act. Those are like the three things that human beings have been responsible for since the days of a moat and a drawbridge. They have to detect somebody approaching, they have to decide if the person's got bad intentions, and then they got to make a move, act on it. If you can automate that entire workflow through context first and foremost, what's happening, who is this person that's approaching, is this a dangerous situation, what time of day is it, is there a festival going on in the castle, all that kind of stuff, and then have the proactive vigilance of having as many guards around that moat as you possibly could need without missing any single square foot of ground in front of it, gives you then the efficiency to go and respond and act as quickly as possible. And what we think about from our fundamental mission is to prevent every security incident possible. We know that that's every security incident possible, which means that we're not going to hit every single one. The very next best thing that we need to do with this kind of technology is automate that first 60 seconds, that process of the detection, the decision, and then the action. And this is how we feel like we can provide the most value, which is captured here in these three. Now, I'll move on to the five core tenets now. You and I, as much as I would love to really deep dive into each one individually with you, and maybe we'll do that at another date, certainly on our own conversations at the next trade show. But we're going to save these for each individual upcoming session. But I would like, with your expertise, I would like for you to just kind of go through these. These are the five tenets. It starts with automation, contextualization, transparency, integration, and adaptability. And essentially, what I'm saying, or what we're saying here is that a system must be automated. It must provide context. It must be transparent, not only in how the data flows, but also transparent in how it's trained. Are there maybe instances where bias could be introduced through the training methods that the organization has in place to develop their models? Are they following a security by design foundation? These are important parts, security by design and privacy by design. These are important parts of responsible AI, which is one of the reasons that we've seen that reduction in people's concern over privacy and AI, because we have now done such a good job of saying, hey, we don't have to collect facial identification biometrics anymore to be able to provide the same level of security that you think you need with something like facial recognition. We can do it in other ways. That has led to the lowering of that privacy concern, which then increases adoption. Integrated means that it has to be an interoperable, intelligent ecosystem that can act as an orchestration device for all of your other systems. And our friend James Connor here at Ambient, longtime security practitioner in the industry, and just an overall extremely knowledgeable guy, he says it really well. He says, for years we've been calling this a physical access control system, and really the system is all of it. Physical access control is just a part of a much broader thing. And what's been missing all these years is the actual intelligent piece of the system that understands access control, video surveillance, visitor management, building automation, et cetera. So in order for it to be a true AI security platform, must be integratable, must be interoperable. And then lastly, adaptability. Adaptability does not necessarily mean learning the environment. That is a very important part of machine learning and what AI can deliver. But it's also about the overall ability to adapt to new technology, new models that become available, new requirements from the customer. So what we're saying there is that this is why the cloud is so important, because anything where you're putting finite amount of resources and relying on those resources for compute is going to limit your ability to grow and evolve your models over time. If you're doing it in a true hybrid cloud model, then that allows a pretty much unlimited adaptability. Okay, so I've thrown a bunch of words together. I've put together these five tenets. I blasted them off at you. What do you think about these five tenets as an evaluation framework? And then what I'd really like to wrap up the conversation with is maybe if you could provide to our viewers one simple question, in your opinion, for either all five of them, with one simple question that you could ask a product manufacturer, or maybe a couple of questions where you can kind of suss out where they stand with these five tenets. Go.
Sure. So, when I look at these different things, I believe that at least in our process, this is something that we have been looking at, and I guess we've been setting our visions for a customer around these things for years. The difference is we've been building it around a human being, not around an AI platform, right? We've been hoping that I could make an automated process work better for a human being. And will my system do it? Yes, but there's a limitation, right? I'll give you an alert and I'm like, you're going to do something with it. I can't tell you what it's going to be, but this is as far as I can go. That line's getting crossed, right? And so traditionally, when we looked at manufacturers, it's always been looked at as, okay, can we deploy this? Can we get it? Is it sustainable? Is it going to solve the problem? Does it have enough features built into it that we can execute and we can sell those and provide value to our customer? It's been so heavy on the technology and why is it different? And I think all of these fit into that role. We pick our manufacturers based on their ability to produce products that we can sustainably get and deploy them to our customers in our way, right? Now, we're able to take a leap into the human side of the operation of these systems. And we have to be looking at this and applying the technology from our manufacturer in a higher level way. We have to say, okay, look, can I augment what we've been saying the word human a lot the last year. It's like, okay, do we need a human to do this? Right. And any business segment that we're looking at our finance stuff and it's like, hey, you know what? Do we need a human to do that? Do we need to set money aside for a human to pull this off? And that's making us think differently operationally. And I think we got to do the same thing here. We got to go in and sit down with a manufacturer and say, hey, how is this going to help my security humans that are my customers operate better and do something more important for their business? And if I can't check some boxes here, this is not who I need to be working with. If they're going to provide me an alert, I'm out, because we've been doing that forever and it hasn't made the situation better. It makes it worse. If my customer has to hire human beings to pull things out and they can't figure out what's going on or who made a change or an adaptation to the customer or to the system in a different area, or I can't provide an alert back whenever something is happening and I can't roll a truck automatically to say, hey, this was a problem, it's already fixed, we're up and running, or fix it remotely and letting them know, then I'm not providing a service back to the customer that they're going to want to continue to pay for or buy, and they're not going to refer us to somebody else. So at a high level, I really think when I look at these, we've been doing that for a while. And I think that's where our customers found value in picking us as their integrator, right? They wanted somebody that they could lean on that could make sure that these things were going to happen when they needed it, but they didn't really know when they needed it, right? So we've got to take a journey a little past where we've been and say, hey, listen, I'm going to set a vision for you that this can happen for you, and I can make your operation stronger and better and faster and cover a lot of ground. I've got to pick a partner that can help me do that for my customer. I've got to take that customer on a journey they've never been on before. They thought they had to hire a human, and they don't. And that's the sale. That's where I've got to spend time. That's where I've got to learn and discover where can I adopt my solution to your business and provide the best possible non-human interaction with you and your system. And I think it's important to know that. That's a deep concept. That's a very deep concept.
It
The more
is.
I think about it,
It is, and you never really, I mean, you don't very often come across security leaders that say they've got enough humans already. Now,
right.
there are being forced, and this is a realistic thing that happens with any new emerging technology. Jobs will go away as a result. Security operators are being forced to handle a rapidly devolving situation as far as the kind of chaos and the craziness that's starting to happen more and more frequently across our enterprises. with less and less resources, less people, less training for their people, less, time to spread out everyone that they have. And at the same time, more cameras, more data to sift through. So having the ability to say, look, does this require a human? That particular challenge that you have, the task, the solution that we want to provide, does it require a human? And it's okay if it doesn't. It's not about removing the human from the equation 100%. It's about using the technology to augment the human's ability to do something else that's more impactful, that's more tactical, or perhaps more strategical.
Maybe
Strategic.
fit your culture better, right? We
Yeah.
want maybe if I've got a human being sitting in an office looking at cameras all day, are you really affecting? Look at our community policing. We do a lot in community policing. Where is that most effective? Officers on the street talking with the next generation, taking down some barriers, making sure that they're having conversations with the folks that are on the street and what's happening. They want boots on the ground, right in your face, getting to know their communities. But I still have to have cameras on their back, right? So it's like you've got to live in both spaces. If I hire a human and put them in there and they're watching cameras all the time, that's not necessarily as effective to community policing as it would be with boots on the street. And the reality is, we actually have some ex-police chiefs on our staff now talking about this. We're looking at taking this in our community policing model and the way that we're doing that. And we want them to be able to affect their culture better. That could be a community, it could be a business, could be an operation. A lot of the places that we work, they haven't had a security staff for 25 years. They've had cameras for 25 years and they go pull the video when they need to. They don't know how to make this leap looking at systems in this light. They never have. All they know is I need pictures, I need the best possible picture. They don't know how to take this and make their operation stronger. And it's not necessarily less humans. They never had them in the first place. And
Yeah.
they've got to be able to adapt their way of working to include these things. And we need partners that can help us solve that riddle for the customer at the end of the day, and regardless of the environment. And that's where the flexibility and adaptability comes into play. It's like I could have an environment with 25 officers, I could have an environment with 100 officers, 3,000 cameras, or it might be 20 cameras, right? It might be 20 really, really important cameras that need to be managed and maintained, and really bad things happen if somebody gets in there. I'm in the Kentucky area, so you start talking about bourbon. You really don't want to have somebody walk around with a lighter in a bourbon barn. That's not a good choice, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of money in there, and we really don't want to see that disappear. So those are some things that they're not going to hire a guard to stand there and hope that nobody walks in with a lighter. I've got to do that a different way, and we've got to have the right partners to make that happen. So
And there's probably cameras around. So if you got a technology that can do that with a camera, makes a lot of sense.
absolutely.
So Chris, we're going to wrap up. We ran just a little bit over on our time. I think that I'm going to probably ask at some point that we get you back on to dive into one or two of these independently of the broader conversation. This is certainly something that we're talking about at Ambient AI. We're encouraging all of our channel partners to start helping their end users really ask the important questions about their evaluations, because this is not necessarily something that Ambient AI is saying we're the only ones that can do. If there is a computer vision product, a AI powered security ecosystem type product that can do these 5 things, it can deliver value for you, we believe. Now, there are other reasons that we think that you would want to go with Ambient AI over those potential competitors. A lot of it has to do with the way that we do business, our ability to get time to value as quickly as we do, and then just the core capabilities of our technology, which I haven't seen anything like it. But I do look forward to further conversations with you. I do want to leave a couple of pro tips for successful AI deployments. These are some things that we've learned over the years, helping customers dip their toes into the water and then fully implement and roll out into a fully operational AI environment. So we oftentimes will talk about starting small. There's no reason to just go and paint the entire barn all at once, paint the door, see how you like the color, and then start painting the rest of it. Gather as much metrics as you can. There's a lot of information that is being collected, or that has the potential to be collected through your video surveillance cameras. Let's power those cameras to do a whole heck of a lot more than just timestamp video. And then it does take a new mindset. You hit on this a lot. Customers are used to thinking in terms of like, I need another camera. I need the best possible camera with the highest possible resolution, and I need it to cover the most areas possible. That mindset has shifted now. Where we put cameras, the kinds of cameras, what those cameras are looking at, what's really important from an early detection versus a reactive investigation standpoint. These are all things that need to be considered within the mindset of the organization as they're planning to implement their AI strategy. And then ultimately, it does require trust. And the only way that you can really build that trust is to evaluate the product, get it running in your environment through a proof of concept, a pilot program, some sort of partnership evaluation. And I guarantee you, you will be surprised once you get a sense for how well it reacts and how trustworthy it can be in its automation workflows and processes. You will begin to develop a trust, which will make it much easier to say, you know what? I'm okay with letting this AI watch my cameras for the whole weekend. I'm not going to worry about the fact that we don't have a human on shift, because if something needs my attention or needs my team, I have an automated workflow to address the situation, and I have an escalation policy to ensure visibility as needed. One or two quick pro tips from you, Chris, and then we'll wrap things up.
I think these are right in line with what we try to do. They have, first of all, it has to embrace. And I think if we go into it, an opportunity, and we sit down and have a conversation, you can pick out pretty fast if somebody's embracing that technology or not. Are they willing to shift? Are they willing to change? If they are, then you start small and you start baby stepping your way, and you get a taste of it, and you're able to move forward. I don't know that a lot of people are jumping, feet first, over the ledge right off the bat. I think it's important to make sure, hey, we embrace this. We know there's going to be some bumps in the road. Let's get started. Let's see what it feels like. And then next thing you know, you're rocking and rolling.
And that's why it's important for partnerships like Ambient's partnership with Security Pros. We work through this entire process from start to finish. There actually ideally isn't a finish. We're working together. We have a customer success team working alongside our partnership team with your team to ensure that we're delivering a product that you are then taking to the customer. And at the end of the day, the customer is the most important part of that. Are they receiving the service, and are they receiving the value and the return on their investment that we promised? Those 5 tenets will ensure from a technology standpoint that the product can deliver. Working with valued partners that have the experience and that you trust on the integrator part will help pull together the service for the end user. Chris, we don't have time for the questions and answers. We did get a couple of questions. I will do my best for our audience members. I'll do my best to get with Chris, get his responses, and we will include them in the follow-up. We may have had an admin answering questions during the session, so hopefully we got some of them answered. There was a couple of good questions that came in, Chris, but unfortunately we're out of time, so I'm going to defer those for you and I to follow up on later. But I do also want to make sure I give you and Security Pros an opportunity to talk just a little bit more about how can we get our audience members to reach you if they'd like to, and then primarily, what is your final closing message that you'd like to leave our audience with?
Sure. I really appreciate the time today. It's really been great having a chance to get on here and talk a little about where the future of the industry is. We love being in that space and being able to help take our clients and customers to that level. You can find us on these addresses here. You can find us on the web. You can find us on LinkedIn. We have a pretty good presence there on LinkedIn as well. Especially, I know I do. I've been in the industry a long time, so happy to connect with you there. Reach out to us, just about any way through our sales portals, that sort of thing. We'll get in front of you. We're really not afraid of anywhere. We actually been working around the world the past couple of years. We started off as a small integration company here. To be quite honest, it was a one-man show for a minute. In today's environment, we've grown to multiple offices, and we have a national accounts team that works around the world. So we've been able to really expand and grow. And with the technology, the timing has been great to allow us to grow that business across all 6 continents now so far. So it's been really pretty amazing to watch the overall evolution and where this thing is headed in the future. So if you're having struggles and you've had plenty of opportunity to work with other companies, or maybe your technology stack is just not getting you where you want to go and you feel like there's more to it, we're willing to have those conversations and at least figure out if there's a good fit there for us to have a conversation and to really help you get to where you want to go. I'd be really surprised if it wasn't. We do this quite often, and a lot of people are looking to get more out of what they've already purchased. we can come in there and do that type of work. And it doesn't have to be a complete start over. It's about how you look at the technology, not so much how you install it these days. So we're excited to have any opportunities we can. So thanks again for the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for our audience members, a little bit of call to action or homework on your part. Be sure to register for the next part of this 5-part webinar series, the second webinar, which will be covering autonomous response, the detect, decide, act functionality. We're going to take a deep dive with another security professional, special guest to be announced soon. That will happen roughly in about 4 weeks from now. So we'll be releasing that one. And then we plan to keep at a regular cadence of about every 4 weeks with a new webinar until we finish the series and cover the entire foundational principles of the 5 tenets of AI-powered security. Reach us at ambient.ai. We have a lot of great white papers. We have a lot of good case studies. And of course, we have a team of dedicated AI sales professionals working alongside our value partners like Chris and Security Pros to ensure that we are delivering a magical customer experience. And remember that we're here to help you. We're on a mission to prevent every security incident possible. And we mean that from the very, very bottom of our hearts. We want to help you prevent those security incidents utilizing the most cutting edge and front-facing technology available today. Chris, thank you so much for your time. To your
Absolutely.
team of Security Pros, I always love these conversations. Look forward to the next one. To our audience, thank you very much. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you.